Well, I am a British trained medium. I have a CSNU from the Spiritualist National Union, although I am an American. Um, and So my training was mostly there at Stansted and with the SNU. I got into spirit art a number of years ago when I first started really practicing my mediumship at the ISF, International Spiritualist Federation. I was an artist by training. My undergraduate work was at Pratt in art. And so when I heard about spirit art, I said, oh, gee, let's try this. And so I did. And I've been doing it ever since. I do the portraits, I do the automatic drawing. We do all kinds of things. Now, in the spirit art class, again, we do all kinds of things. In fact, I love it. My students always challenge me. They say, come up with something new. So right before Christmas, I came up with the idea of drawing pets from spirit. And we did. Everybody drew different cats and dogs and birds and all kinds of different things. And they were all taken by the people in the room. So we had a wonderful time drawing our pets. So we do all kinds of different things. I'm always open for trying something new and trying something different in the class. We also do portraits. We'll probably be doing portraits again next time. But so it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. You don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be an artist. Spirit will help you with the artwork. So yeah, come and join us. It's a lot of fun. No pressure, no pressure. And then I have the Sunday mediumship class. We have a really nice group of people that have been with me in and out for a long time. I work with people on varying levels. I mean, some people are just beginners. So I work with them on the beginning level. Other people are more advanced. So I expect some different things of them. We try to share messages with each other. We try to bring definitely some healing and some spiritual support to everyone who participates in the group. So it's a good chance for you to try and spread your wings. And if you haven't done mediumship before, I coach you so that we can start to learn a little bit about how to do it.
Susan, can you explain to everybody what a CSNU is and how you get one?
I say that because, well, actually, I was going to Arthur Findlay College for many, many years, and I got to know Stephen Upton, and Stephen's been to Lilydale, where I have a house, and so I got to know Stephen a little bit, and then Stephen said to me, well, why don't you take a course? And I said, oh, okay, and they had the courses on SNUi. So I took the course, and it was online. I had to do some reading and answering questions for them, but I had to write 25 essays in their SD1 course, and then I had to do 25 inspired speakings and 25 mediumship demonstrations, and then I took a test. But I went to England to take the test because they had a special week where they would bring in all the people from SNUi, and that's where I met Karen Francis and some of my other friends who are mediums. We took the courses together. We came from all over the place, New Zealand, America, all over, and we would study for a week. They would train us and coach us, and then we would take the test. And you have to take a test in mediumship and a test in public speaking, and I passed them both. And from there, I was able, I think it's a little different now, but I was able to study a little more. I did another 25 essays, and I was able to go back and test for the CSNU. And I did, and I went back for that, and I passed. So
it's quite a process, isn't it, Susan? It takes a while.
Oh, it was an incredible process, and some things I passed right away, some things I didn't, so I had to go back. Anyway, yeah, it is an incredible process to go through. So most people start it, don't finish.
So when you see CSNU next to a medium's name, it means they've had a thorough training at the Arthur Findlay College. And it is very prestigious. I think there's not that many of them around in America, are there, Susan?
There's about 5 or 6 of us in America,
Right.
in all of America that has it. And I'm counting Karen McCarthy. She's also from Ireland, so she goes back and forth between the US and Ireland.
So would you recommend that training at the Arthur Findlay College?
Well, I want to say people who, yes, I mean, the college is amazing. I've worked with some incredible mediums there. Unfortunately, some of them have passed at this point, but the training was top notch. And I also say the SNUi, and I don't know whether they're on Zoom yet now or not, they were working with a different kind of conferencing program where you couldn't see each other, but we were doing audio. And so you practice and you do that. They have practice sessions. So just joining the SNUi is a way for people to start getting into practice. The first course is the PASS course. Before you can go for an SNU, you have to do their PASS courses. The SNU is the Spiritualist National Union. It is probably the largest spiritualist organization in England, although there are also independent spiritualist churches in England. The SNU is like the largest network. There's SNU churches in just about every major city in England. And what the training does, what my CSNU entitles me to do is it means that I can go into any SNU church and do mediumship or do a lecture because I've passed the requirements. So that's what it basically means.
And there's nothing like that in America, is there? Is there any kind
Well,
of
there is.
standard?
There is. There is a group called the NSAC, National Association of Spiritualist Churches, which is more of a national organization where the CSNU is an international kind of credential. And they don't have as many churches, but there are a number of churches here in the United States, and they do train mediums, and they do have awards that they give to people, and they do have testing. Their testing is a little bit different from the SNU. I like the SNU better because the SNU really makes you think. It challenges you to think about your mediumship and think about your spirituality in a way that the NSAC does.
Yeah, hey Sue, hey Wendy. So the Arthur Findlay College stuff. This is just a kind of casual question, but the Arthur Findlay College stuff. How does it work? How much is it? What kind of courses do they give? If this is a valid question to ask, I'm just curious about how that organization functions.
Sure, I think that that's a very valid question. One of the big differences between Arthur Findlay and American education is that at Findlay they teach trance, and trance is very much a part of it. But they also teach all kinds of courses. They teach courses in spirit art. They teach courses that are experimental courses in mediumship. And they do focus on mental mediumship and different topics associated with mental mediumship, like connecting with heart with spirit and things like that. They've also done, I've been to physical weekends there, which they don't really do anymore, but they used to have physical weekends there. They have a Christmas event every year. And the mediumship training is very, very good. I mean, the difference between the British training and the American training, and I've seen this because some American psychics, big psychics, have gone over to Arthur Findlay College and haven't been able to do the basic thing, which is get a link. They really work with spirit. They make you get a link with the spirit world and connect you with the spirit world. And they really tell you the difference between psychic types of messages and mediumship types of messages. And they know when you're in spirit and when you're not. And they also, I was lucky to have worked with Glenn Edwards, who was the one who started the sitting in the power exercises. So they're excellent teachers. They're very good. They know what they're doing. They're all excellent mediums. People like Eileen Davies is a phenomenal medium. When you see these people demonstrate, it's totally different from seeing a demonstration in America. I mean, they get up there and they will start acting out the character of the person they have in spirit. I mean, I've seen a guy here who says, well, this guy, he had a bar, and you could see him reaching up to get the glasses to clean them, like he was working in the bar. I mean, they get so close to spirit that they get a tremendous amount of information. So you can go there for all kinds of things, you know. Basically, you go and you look, and I know they're doing stuff on Zoom now. You go and you look and you find a course that you like and go. I got all my trance training there.
I've put a link to their courses in the chat window, Steve, so you can answer that. Just for the people who are not sure, could you just clarify the difference between, how do you know when you're with spirit and you're not reading psychically? It's such a fundamental thing.
It is, and I mean, one of the difficult things that I have, or probably the most difficult aspect of teaching mediumship, is trying to get people to feel that link. Now, I was very lucky when I first started doing mediumship in Rochester, New York. The minister of my church was bringing over all kinds of British mediums. So from the very beginning, I was working with British mediums, and they would always say to me, get the link, get the link. And getting a spirit link, the only thing I can describe it is I feel as if there's a person next to me. I sense that physical presence of a person. And if I can clear my mind enough, clear it enough that I just get the messages from them that they will, I'm more clairaudient than clairvoyant, amazingly, but they will just tell me things, and then I can just repeat them for the person who's receiving the message. And they'll tell me things about them, you know, little details and stuff. And when you're working in the British way, see, what's different is when you're working with the British way and you're doing what we call spirit first, you're getting a spirit, and you're getting a spirit, and you're asking that spirit to tell them something about you. So that's where they stand up, and they don't go directly to one person. They have a group of people, and they'll start describing someone. They'll say, I have a woman here. I know she was a grandmother. The interesting thing about this grandmother was she always wore high heels. She loved her high heels. But she was also a woman that worked very hard, you know, and they would go on and give you descriptions, but there'd be a little kernel in there that would separate it. And they say, how many people can take it? And maybe 3 people's hands go up. And then they have to give more information, more information, more information, until only 1 hand is up, which is different from the spirit direct way, which is going to a person and then getting a relative or loved one for them.
Nicole, you had a question for Susan about the Arthur Findlay College website.
Hi, thank you, Wendy. Yeah, like every time I go on that website, there's so many courses. I don't know where to start. It's like they seem to all say that it's for all levels and beginners, you know, like I get lost. Could you like guide me to?
Not all of them are for beginners. Not all the courses are for beginners. So, I mean, you have to look first. 2 things. Look for a course that says, you know, that it's beginning and not advanced, and look for a topic that you're interested in. I mean, I always go to Arthur Findlay College, not because it's the college, but because there's a course I want to take. So, and this is what I did. I said to myself, okay, what is it you want to learn? Do you want to learn mental mediumship? Then you look for the courses that are dealing with mental mediumship.
For beginners.
For beginners, yeah. And that's the way you start to narrow it down. I mean, because they have
Okay.
all kinds of courses. They got art courses, they got this course, they got that course. But see, I've always picked what I wanted to do. For example, a couple of years I said, I want trans courses. So I just took trans courses there and would look at the teachers, and I learned who the teachers were. And so I took those trans courses. And that's how I did it. So pick a topic that you want to learn
Okay.
and look at it that way, and don't look at everything, you know, because they do Native American stuff, they do all kinds of things. But what you want is you want a basic mediumship course.
Okay.
So you're going to
And you
look for
said
that.
they no longer do physical, is it physical mediumship? Like,
Yeah.
they no longer teach that? Is that what you're
No.
saying?
Well,
Okay.
there's only one person that still does it under, it's not called physical mediumship, but I know she does do it in her courses, and I'm going to blank on her name at the moment. Sharon Harvey. Sharon Harvey calls it something else, but she really gets into a little bit of physical mediumship.
Wonderful. Thank you.
But so you know, Sue, what's if you want to go, I'd like a little bit of a rundown on physical mediumship these days. What you think is going on in it, who's doing it. You know, a little overview on what the state of physical mediumship is. It's your book too, right? So
Yeah.
you know.
Well, you know, I have to tell you, a lot of the physical mediumship is kind of behind closed doors. People don't advertise it. People don't talk about it that much, because I've found when I started talking to people, especially through the AREI, I started finding lots of people that were actually working and practicing and doing a little bit of physical mediumship on their own. I mean, you have the big people like Scott Milligan and Kaim Yugi, and a bunch of them that do presentations for people. You can get invited to some of their sessions. But with the COVID thing, all of it got canceled. I mean, we had my friend Neil Zipkowski that runs physical mediumship stuff at his place here in Casadega. And he, you know, he's had Gary Mannion, he has Michael Shane, he has all of these different people. He even has Warfield Moose, who is a UWEEP person. He does a full UWEEP for you, which has physical phenomena. So there are places, if you kind of know people, where you can go and see it, but it's not super public. I mean, and most people are doing it in private.
We do have a group on Wednesday night with Craig Hogan doing physical mediumship online. If any of you are interested in that, it's in the list of groups that are on, and they take new people. You have to be prepared to sit in the dark in your own home, and I think they are getting some phenomena. But physical mediumship just takes so long to develop, and a lot of people just don't have the patience for it these days. Would you agree with that, Susan?
Absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you how many groups I've started. I mean, what I basically do now with people is, because my house in Lilydale is set up as a seance room, we'll invite people over, and then I have them do different physical experiments like table tipping and working with the planchette. And we work with trumpets a little bit. So we'll do some of the stuff, and we'll do some trance sessions and things to kind of get people introduced to physical mediumship. But finding people who are dedicated to sit is next to impossible.
Susan, I wanted to tell you something that happened to me. This past weekend, my phone rang, and I never answer my phone if I don't know the number, but I picked up, and this lady said that she was referred to me by someone who I had helped in the past, and wanted to know if I could help her. Her mother just passed on Thursday, and this was Monday, and wanted to know if I could get in touch with her. And I said, well, it doesn't really work that way. I said, it may be too soon if she just passed a few days ago. I can't ask for someone directly. I can only ask for anyone to come through that has a message for you, and it may not be your mother yet. Well, she didn't want to hear any of that. She wanted to talk to her mother, and she had some guilt issues that came out, and I had just said, you know, I would love to be able to get your mother. I said, but I'm actually in my car driving right now. I'll have to talk to you later. But I said, I cannot promise you your mother will come through. I did start getting someone for her, which happens to me a lot when I'm driving, when I'm, you know, my subconscious mind is driving and, you know, and I told her, and she didn't want to hear any of it. She wanted her mother. So I said, well, maybe later when I'm, you know, home and I can meditate, and I'll see if she would come through for you. But that's just really not how it works. So I just left it at that.
Philip, the only advice I can give you is this. I had a woman who came to me, and she was the rudest person I've ever met in my life. She had a preconceived idea that a medium was going to sit there and go bump, 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 bump on people. And that's, of course, not the way it works. And nothing was going to change her mind. She wasn't going to listen to me, like this woman was not going to listen to you. So you just have to, you know, as you explain to her, hey, that's not what we do. I mean, my advice to her would be to sit down, think about your mother, and tell your mother what you want her to know, because chances are she'll hear it in the spirit world.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I would tell them, you know, is do it on their own, because no, there are people like that. There's nothing you can do. This woman huffed out, and she didn't even realize that I wouldn't charge her anyway, because I couldn't get a connection with her. But and I'm sure she huffed out thinking she got one over on me, but she didn't.
Susan, no, that brings up your topic of manners and mediumship. What are some of your other experiences you've had with ill-mannered clients or ill-mannered
mediums
coming through?
It's mostly ill-mannered mediums. It's not, the spirits are usually pretty good. I mean, I'm lucky because I only ask for the highest and the best, and I tried to elevate, and somebody said I was an egomaniac for saying this, but because I tried to elevate myself on a certain spiritual level, I work up here. I don't have the riff-raffy things, you know, the earthbound spirits and all of that don't bother me. They don't come in. I only get the spirits that are higher ones up. So I don't have a problem with wayward or attachments. I don't believe in attachments and all of this stuff. But there are some rules, and many of the American mediums have not learned them, which is why I was saying earlier to you, Wendy, that I try to add some structure to things because that's the way I was taught. And the first one is, and true story, I had a young gal. She was trained, she was trained by someone that I know. The person is really more of a psychic than a medium. And she came to my house. We were doing an evening of experimental physical mediumship work. And she got into my house and the table started tipping like crazy. It was going all over the place. And she starts blurting out messages for people. She's just going, I have a message for you, and it's this. I have a message for you, and it's that. And she was just like throwing out all of these messages like the Long Island medium does. And that's totally inappropriate. You don't walk up to somebody and start giving them a message. Even if you know them, you really have to prepare it. You have to ask them ahead of time, may I give you a message? Or tell them what you're doing. You don't just blurt it all out. Because, I mean, before I knew about this, I did lose a friend because I did blurt something out once. So I know firsthand it's not a good thing to do. So you don't blurt it out. You ask permission from someone. Even if you're getting these feelings, you're surround people and you're getting these feelings, you know, that's, you know, look at it. If it's not the appropriate place, don't act on it. Don't act on it. You have to use discretion so that the messages are given in the right place and in the right context. That's a really important one for me. Just don't blurt it out. The second one, that I think is very, very helpful for people who are beginning as mediums is to know that if you're put in a spot where they want you to get up, they push you up there, they say, okay, you're ready, you go up there, you give a message, and you get up there and you don't have a message, say so. Don't try to pretend. Don't try to fake it till you make it. If you don't have a link and you don't have a message, then just say blessings to you all. I don't have a message at this time. And sit down. Because if you pretend you have a message, you're doing a disservice to the spirit world. And I think what a lot of these psychics don't realize is that you have to respect the spirit world. You have to respect this ability and this skill. And you don't want to go over bounds or do the wrong thing. And the one that keeps coming to my mind is that there was a person once, I didn't see this, but my friend keeps telling the story, who got up at the stump at Lilydale where they do the big public messages. And he got up there and he went like this and he said, I have a gentleman who shot himself in the head. And I mean, that is not, and the gesture, and did the gesture of the gun to the head. That is totally inappropriate. I mean, if I get people who are claiming to have committed suicide, or I think it's a suicide or a drug overdose or something like that, you know, I'll just say, I think this person assisted in their death. You know, I think that there was some kind of accident going on here. And then the person will say, oh, but it was drugs. And I go, yes, but I didn't want to say that. You know, they can say it, but I can't. You know, you don't want to give out the dirty laundry, especially if you're in public. My experience with apports, I've had some really interesting experiences with apports because I've gotten apports mostly in outdoors, in natural surroundings. And I know there were apports because they're, you know, like the first one I got was when I was very young, and it was an arrowhead. It was a quartz Indian arrowhead, and it was just sitting on the lawn. Well, arrowhead couldn't just have been sitting on the lawn because my father mowed it like a zillion times. And so it was just like sitting there in plain sight, and I found it. And the second time I got it, the second apport I got, this was really bizarre. I like to bake this thing called, what is it? I do a pear pie with ginger. It's this really cool recipe, Southern recipe. And I was making a pear pie and I was running out of pears. So I'm sitting there in the kitchen and I'm making pears, and I forget, something outside in the backyard caught my attention. So I went out in the backyard and all of a sudden I noticed the grass. There was like a section of grass where the grass was just like curled over like in a ball. So I looked in the grass and there was a pear. Now, there were no pear trees. There are no fruit trees. There was nothing there. So where did this pear come from? I don't know, but I looked at the pear and I said, okay, and I put it in the pie. Because I didn't know what else to do. So somebody's asking, what is an apport? An apport is when something materializes or dematerializes. Now, funny thing, I've had things dematerialize too. I have car keys that I've things that disappear that, you know, they couldn't have gone from this place to that place, but they're gone. Oh, here's a perfect one. My mother's necklace. My sister took all my mother's jewelry, but from the time I was a little kid, my mother had this necklace that someone gave her from South America. It wasn't real expensive, but it was all real stones and wire necklace. They have a name for it in South America. I forget what it is. But anyway, I wanted this necklace. And when I went to my mother's funeral, I found this necklace up in a little ball in the corner of her drawer. My sister had neglected it. So I said, I'm taking it. So I had the necklace and I was really great. I was wearing it for a while, wearing it and having a great time with it. Then all of a sudden one day I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. So I went and bought a necklace that looked like it. So to remember my mom. Anyway, so about a week ago, I went up to my desk and there was a necklace. I mean, I looked at that desk 100 times. There was no necklace. All of a sudden, there was a necklace curled up in a ball in the corner of my desk. So it happens to people. Jewelry is a big one for women. People will lose earrings and then find them years later in a jewelry box somewhere. They'll bring them back. So spirit takes things and brings them back. So that's what apports are. But in seances, they usually bring like, Scott Milligan once brought like an old watch for someone in one of his seances that kind of dropped in. Lots of times they're antique kind of looking things, but they can be anything. And so when this stuff disappears, I now have to go, is it spirit or is it me? You know, I'll give you another example. I couldn't find my winter coat. I swore I put my winter coat in the closet. Couldn't find it, couldn't find it, couldn't find it. And I'm going, this is a very weird thing for a spirit to take, my winter coat. And finally, after 2 weeks, I found it in the shower. I forgot I'd washed it and hung it in the shower to dry out. So I know that spirit didn't do it, but yeah, they have taken other things. And sometimes they bring them back and sometimes they don't.
Yes, a question about apports that because I've just learned about them and I've experienced so many of them and now I know what they are. Are apports an aspect of physical mediumship, or does it have anything to do with mediumship at all? Is it?
Yes, it's considered to be a part of physical mediumship. And I'm going to give you another example. There have been people that could like bring coins down from the ceiling. Coins would just appear around them out of nowhere, out of thin air. And those are apports. That is considered to be a form of physical mediumship. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Interesting.
Yeah, but me now, I just kind of take it in stride, you know, and then I ask them, please bring it back, you know.
I'm absolutely fascinated.
But there's all kinds of things, and these things go on every day. Like apports will actually, with me, I mean, you could see they happened in my everyday normal life. It wasn't sitting in a seance room with a physical meeting waiting to go in trance. It just happened. And so these things do happen. Physical phenomena happens every single day. You know, we just don't notice it or we won't accept it.
Could you talk about signs from spirit? A lot of people get pennies or coins.
Oh yeah, well see, that's the same type of thing. You know, I mean, those pennies, are they apports or, you know, did somebody drop them? When you've got a sign, and I know some people get dimes too, I figure they're rich, that if you're always like looking around and finding a penny on its head or on its tail in one direction, and you find them in one direction all the time, you know it's not random. It's not random. It's a sign from the spirit world. And what I always tell people is that when you look at that penny, who do you think of? Who is you thinking of? Are you thinking of my dad was a coin collector? So this is reminding me of him. You know, it's like down in Virginia Beach where my new place is, it's right next to the jet base. And of course, this means something to me because my father designed jet airplanes. So every time the jets go by, I'm thinking of my dad. But I have had birds and things fly onto the balcony, and I know it was a sign from him. You know, so if you think of a loved one when you see the sign, it definitely is a greeting from that person, just to remind themselves of you.
My question is, I listen to spirit like you do, and sometimes, usually when they first start talking, they're not giving a lot of information. So I kind of ask them questions in my head a little bit, you know, like, how are you? Usually it's like, how are you? And then I ask if they'll say it, and then it'll stop, and then I'll kind of encourage them again. Tell me what it's like where you are, and then they'll say that, and then after that, then they'll just usually just talk. But some people, it's such brief things. Not that they're not important, but is there a way of encouraging them to give more?
Well, see, normally, I know, Daisy, you write things down. Normally, if I'm doing a public demonstration for someone, this is another rule. Don't shove a message down somebody's throat. And I've seen mediums do this. They start giving a message, and I have your father here. He's this, he's that, blah, 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 blah. And they don't give the person a chance to respond. They just go nonstop. So it acts like the person's accepting the message when they may not be. You really have to get a kind of rapport with the person. So I'm very lucky that with me, they don't give me names, but they give me relationships. So when I usually go to a person direct, I'll know if I have their mother, father, grandmother, uncle with me. So I can go to them and say, I believe you have an uncle in spirit. I never ask a question. I state it as a statement. I believe you have an uncle in spirit, and maybe say something about him, and they'll say yes. And then the spirit will begin to give me more information. Because what I've found is that, yes, sometimes they even just give you one word. I mean, and when they give you that one word, you have to say that one word. You know, I have a bicycle. I have a coat here. I have a hat. You know, without adding anything to it. And the person, you'll be surprised at how the person will say yes, yes. And then once you get that confirmation, the spirit will start feeding you more information. The more you are accurate or accurately telling people what the spirit's saying, the more they will give you information. That's what I've found.
Okay.
But it's also the other thing too. Here's another tip on this. You have to be very, very careful, because when you've got that spirit link, you can't let your conscious mind get in the way. And I think this may be a problem with what I call the shopping list of mediumship, where a lot of these people say, evidential mediumship, you must get when they died, how this, da, 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 da. And so they're telling you to ask the person, how did you do it? But if you get your conscious mind in the way, then you're blocking the link. You want to get that clear communication going, which can only happen when your mind is clear. So all of these mediums that will say things like, they'll go, oh, I get the name Phil, and the person will say, oh no, I don't recognize that name. And then the medium will go, oh yeah, well, I'm not very good at getting names. Whoop, link on. You know, they don't realize you can't do that. You can't do the editorializing. I mean, when I get the link is there. I'll give you an example. I have a friend who I've been working with for a while. I know him well. And I know it was his spirit guide came to me, because I could feel the guide. She didn't say anything. The first thing she only said to me, brother. So the spirit guide came to me, and I said, I have a brother here. And he said, yes. And nobody in the church, nobody knew that he had a blood brother in spirit. I mean, a real, you know, one of his siblings. He had a stepbrother in spirit, but not a sibling. So nobody knew this. And so then spirit started giving me a description of him and things that had gone on in his life, and the details were correct. You know, but that's because I could make that connection with him. He said, yes, I have a brother. And then the brother came through. But the guide brought the brother through. I'm convinced of that.
Well, thank you. You know, I know what you mean about just hearing like one word or something. One of my very first, you know, oh my goodness, I can do this, you know, kind of moments.
Yeah.
I had a friend that lost a son to a murder, and she would drag me from medium to medium, and we'd be in like audience groups, and they would always pick me, not her. And I didn't really need it. And then she said, well, why don't you try giving me a reading? And I said, stuffed bunny rabbit with pink stripes. And she just looked at me and said, my son's son put that in his coffin. And then she said, except it had pastel stripes. And I was like, my goodness, it was, it was a wonderful evidence. And yet she discounted part of it, but I was still thrilled with it.
But you see, that's what people do. I mean, this is why I don't like to do spirit portraits for individuals. I do it in group settings because if one little thing is not right, somebody's like, oh, that nose is a little bit off, or that mouth isn't quite right. And that's not what a spirit portrait's about. As I tell people, whenever we do the spirit portraits, no matter how crude it is, whether it's a stick figure, there's something in that drawing that will remind someone of their loved one. So yeah, you can't be that tight. Yeah, it's like the woman who came to me that wanted me to go boom, 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 boom. It's not that. It's you building a rapport with the person. And if you don't have a rapport with the person, but I can also tell you why everybody was coming to you in the room. I've seen this happen many times. When spirit like picks somebody, when you're like kind of hot with a lot of spiritual energy around you, all the mediums will come to you. It's like there's like a radar. Everybody goes to that one person because they can sense that the spirit, spirit is with them. And sometimes people, that's different from message hogs, which are people that always want to claim all the messages. But no, when you've got that kind of radar on you, they're all going to go to you.
A lot of our people are developing on their own. What are the best exercises they can do, or what can they do if they don't have a circle or a teacher? What can they do to help their development?
Well, the best way, I say is that you definitely have to spend some time quiet. You try to clear your mind, because you have to realize all of the mediumship messages come through the subconscious mind. So you have to turn off your conscious mind. So practicing turning that off, which isn't easy, you usually do it through breathing. Focus on your breathing. And when those extraneous thoughts come in, you just blow them away. And so you try to get your mind as clear as possible. I also do it by listening to music. I'll put music on, and then I let my mind float with the music. Rather than thinking about anything, I float with the music. And that helps to get my mind clear. So the clearer you can get your mind, the more your subconscious mind is going to be open for those spirit messages to come in. And someone asked me, is it telepathic or actual hearing or both? Well, I have to tell you, it's interesting. I did these studies with Yale on mediumship, and they were looking at people with dissociative disorders, and their information always said, the voice in my mind is telling me, and I kept saying, no, 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 because the voice I hear, it's not quite in my mind, it's outside my mind. It really feels like it's coming from the side and in, and I'm sure it's more of a telepathic kind of thing, but I feel like I'm hearing it.
So the voice is directional. It's either the left ear or the right ear.
Yeah, I get the left ear. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's like here now. Occasionally, I have had situations where people have come in on both sides to me, and oh, this is another problem. Sometimes I have a student who just gets so many voices. You have to say one at a time. So I had this couple. I had their parents, both sets of parents, come in at the same time for me, and I said, okay, pick one to be the spokesperson. And then I could give a message without getting crazy.
So what do you do, Susan? Young mediums often find that they get deluged by spirits at inappropriate times. How do you set hours?
You need discipline. You cannot be turned on all the time. You can't. For me, it's like a switch. When I'm going to give messages, I prepare myself. I have a little conversation with spirit. I will affirm that spirit never fails me. I will ask Spirit to bring me a message, and I will spend a little time shifting my consciousness to being able to receive the messages. But you can't be on all the time. If you're on all the time and you're feeling stuff like earthbound spirits and stuff all the time, then you're not on the right wavelength. You're not in the right channel. You have to ask for the highest and the best. You have to say, I only want Spirit to come with me. I only want the best spirits to come with me. And you have to affirm that, and you have to believe that you're working on that level. And you try to raise yourself up. And part of raising yourself up is also the way you live. And this is why the spiritualist principles are helpful, because the way you live your life, the more positive you are, the better medium you're going to be, because it does have to do with lifestyle. And people who are egocentric, the mediumship will work to an extent, but it won't work as well as it could, because they lose stuff. So it is a lifestyle. It is a lifestyle, and you have to be kind to others, and you have to think about your neighbor, and you have to live your life that way. And know, and this is it, don't think of mediumship as a job. Mediumship is a service, and it's a service that and it's a dedication. So you have to dedicate yourself to work with Spirit. And if you truly, honestly say, and it's not always easy to do it, you say, I'm dedicating myself to work with Spirit, and this is what I want to help people. That's the kind of attitude you need.
If somebody comes to you and says, my son is missing, can you tell me if he's crossed over to the spirit world? How would you handle that?
Well, then I get to be a little bit, I draw on, I am very psychic, so sometimes I draw on the psychic stuff. What I basically do is, people in spirit feel a certain way to me. I mean, they don't feel the same as a living person. And in fact, one of the experiments to do with some mediums is to give them the name of a living person and give them the name of a deceased person and have them distinguish which is which. And so I can usually feel it. So, I mean, what I would say to the woman, what I would say to someone is what I say to people who are always trying to get a specific person, like Philip was talking about earlier. I have a pretty good track record of getting people in spirit, but I can't guarantee it. So what I say is, you can't guarantee that they're always available, because they have work jobs there too. So what I say is, give me the name of the person, and then I'll go into spirit, give the name, and then spirit will give me a description. I'll describe the person, and if they say yes, I know I've got them. If they say no, I say, okay, it's not the right person. I'll go back a second time, try to find them. And if the description is still no, then I'll say they're not available. I can't do it. But I have been successful on many occasions of getting that person for people. I did a session once with a mother and her two daughters, reaching the father that had died, because I didn't know it, but what had happened was that right before he died, he found out he had a son, which he never knew about in his life. So the question was he lying, or was he really telling the truth? And all the spirit kept saying to me, kept saying out of my mouth was, I didn't know, I didn't know, I didn't know. And I got all of these incredible images from him, because he was a farmer, about being on the farm and watching the sunsets and seeing the corn and all of this. So we knew we had him very clearly, and I could very distinctly say to them, no, he did not know. He did not know.
Fantastic. Do you ever get parents whose child is having problems with seeing spirit or being disturbed by spirit? What would you say to that parent or that child?
Here's what happens. I have had people, because there are a lot of what we call indigo children in the world now, and then there are a lot of children that are much more sensitive to the spirit world than we've been in the past. And what I say to parents is, don't say no. Just listen to your child. Hear what your child has to say. And don't dismiss it. I mean, just try to understand what the child is telling you. For example, I have a friend with twins, And these twins have seen their past lives, because he would be in the car with them, they'd be driving someplace, and the twins would go, oh, we visited that with our other parents. And they had memories of being with a different set of parents, and he just, took it like a fantasy kind of thing and didn't poo-poo it. You can't poo-poo it. You have to just take it as if it's an active imagination on the child's part and listen to what they have to say.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. Anybody got a question? Well, can we just go back to your group, Susan, and tell people how they can find your group if they're interested in coming along to your Sunday group?
Well, I always tell them to go to the Victor Zamet site, because believe it or not, that's how I find the Zoom link every week.
victorzamet.com/Zoom.
Zoom.
I'll
Right.
write it in there for you.
Because I go there and the listing, and this is the best way to do it, because if you can't remember which week it is, it will be listed and posted on the Zoom site. And
Hey,
that's
Sue,
how.
What's a WIPO?
What?
Sorry. What's a WIPO? You mentioned a WIPO before?
WIPO?
The
WIPO?
American Indian
UWIPI. I
shaman.
mentioned a UWIPI.
What is that?
UWIPI. A UWIPI is a Native American medicine ceremony that has 3 parts to it, but it includes physical phenomena. For example, I think it's spelled UPI. UWIPI. And for example, when I've been in the UWIPIs, they have quartz rattles, and the quartz rattles, when you shake them, because it's quartz, they emit a little bit of light. So you will see these rattles literally go all over the whole room. They're up in the ceiling, way up, nowhere where people can't reach, and they come. They were so close, they were like this on my face. They were like on my forehead, hitting my forehead with the rattles. And the room was so tight that nobody could have been standing in front of me to do it. It just couldn't be there. And they also have a lot of direct voice. You can hear their relatives, their relatives who've been medicine men and things like that. Their voices will come in. So it's an amazing kind of ceremony. One second. So it's really quite an amazing ceremony to sit in it, and the whole thing is healing. And they will also, I've seen the medicine men give messages to people as well. And one of the things I look at in a physical seance is I look for those personal messages. I look for those spirit messages that come through, because if somebody's just bringing up apports and moving trumpets around a little bit and not bringing through spirit, then I question
Absolutely.
the significance of the event. I think it's more of a theatrical performance than a spirit.
Susan, it's been absolutely wonderful having you. Thank you. I know how busy you are, because the list of things you do just blows me away. And
well, these days I'm just in bed.
Well, thank you so much. Philip, can I ask you to thank Susan on behalf of all the people here?
Well, Susan knows I'm very grateful for her, because she's helped me tremendously over the past years. So I'm sure everyone else is as grateful as I am, but thank you so much for doing this tonight. And of course,
you're welcome.
We can talk for 4 more hours and I'd be happy.
And if I can't answer the question, I'll find the answer.
You do. Thank you so much.
It's been, and everybody's thanking you in the chat window, which is lovely.